Pierre-Paul Prud'hon. B. Cluny, 1758, D. Paris, 1823. A fine portraitist, Prud'hon became one of Napoleon's favorite artists. After training in Dijon, he won the Prix de Rome and completed his studies in Italy. There, he was influenced by the work of Leonardo and Correggio. Prud'hon gained a string of commissions from Napoleon, although his most celebrated painting was Justice and Divine Vengeance Pursuing Crime, 1808, a lurid allegory produced for the Palais de Justice. Prud'hon's style could be delicate and charming, but some of his pictures display a slightly neurotic taste for emotionalism, which may reflect the unhappiness of his own life. His wife gradually went insane, while his mistress committed suicide in his studio. Lifeline. 1758 born in Cluny, 1784 wins the Prix de Rome and goes to study in Italy, 1788 returns to Paris, 1803 obtains a separation from his wife, 1805 paints portrait of the Empress Josephine, 1808 produces his most famous picture, Justice and Divine Vengeance Pursuing Crime, 1808, is awarded the Crosso of the Legion of Honor, 1821 his mistress, Constance Meyer, commits suicide, 1823 dies in Paris in his 60s. Portrait of the Empress Josephine, Napoleon's wife is pictured in the grounds of her home, the Château of Malmaison. The painting was commissioned shortly after Josephine had been crowned empress, though this triumph was marred by personal misfortune. Napoleon was already thinking of divorcing her, because she was infertile. 1805, oil on canvas, 244 by 179 cm, Louvre, Paris, France. Closer look. Red and green. Prud'hon's use of complementary tones on the empress's dress ensures that his main subject resonates with vibrant color. Around her, the setting is dark and oppressive. Théodore Géricault. B. Rouen, 1791, D. Paris, 1824. Théodore Géricault came from a wealthy family, which enabled him to pursue a truly independent course in his art. Trained by Vernet and Gérard, he completed his studies in Italy. On his return to France, he labored for 18 months on the Raft of the Medusa, 1819, the monumental painting that secured his reputation. Géricault's art typifies the spirit of Romanticism. He was drawn to themes of violence, horror, and madness. He painted wounded soldiers and wild, untamed horses. Even a traditional subject, such as the Epsom Derby, 1821, was set against a threatening sky. Géricault's temperament and lifestyle were equally romantic. He conducted a doomed love affair with the young wife of his uncle, which threw his family into turmoil. He had a brief, but hazardous military career, fighting for the royalists against Napoleon, and he was a reckless rider, loving nothing more than a battle of wills with a lively horse. Riding accidents helped to bring about his early death, which in turn added to the romantic aura surrounding his name. Lifeline. 1791 born in Rouen, the son of a lawyer, 1808 studies in the studio of Carl Vernet. 1812 the charging cuirassier wins gold medal at the Salon. 1819 his masterpiece, The Raft of the Medusa, causes a sensation at the Salon. 1820-21 lives in England. 1822 begins series of portraits of mental patients. 1824 dies in Paris, aged 32, following a fall from a horse. I have seen the death mask of poor Géricault, and his sublime raft. What hands and heads! I cannot express the admiration it inspires. I feel a longing to make a sketch of it. What a precious reminder of this extraordinary man Eugene Delacroix, 1824. The madwoman afflicted with envy towards the end of his life, Géricault produced a pioneering and compelling series of portraits of mental patients. Each one highlighted a specific medical condition with clinical accuracy. 1822-23, oil on canvas, 72 by 58 cm, Musée des Beaux-Arts, Lyon, France. The Raft of the Medusa. This huge painting depicts the shipwreck of the Medusa in 1816, which became the focus of a major political scandal. Géricault's decision to tackle a subject of this kind proved highly controversial, as many critics believed the topic was better suited to journalism than to high art. 1818-19, oil on canvas, 491 x 716 cm, Louvre, Paris, France. Closer look. Horrific realism. Géricault went to extraordinary lengths to capture the full horror of the situation. He observed the dead and the dying in a local hospital, made studies in its dissecting room, and sketched the remains of guillotined criminals. Some critics felt that he went too far, and was wallowing in morbid details, such as this prostrate corpse. The Epsom Derby. Géricault's horses perform a flying gallop, with all four legs off the ground. Advances in photography later proved that this was impossible. 1821, oil on canvas, 92 x 123 centimeters, Louvre, Paris, France. Francois Gérard. Brome, 1770, Paris, 1837. The son of a diplomat, Gérard trained under David and enjoyed a successful career as a portraitist. He also produced a number of attractive mythological scenes. Neoclassical subjects remained in vogue after the Revolution, but they were no longer conveyed with the same moral and political force. Gérard Cupid and Psyche, 1798, is typical of this new mood. The figures still have a sculptural appearance, but the overall approach is decorative, superficial, and mildly erotic. Portrait of Madame Recamier much preferred this informal portrait to David's severely classical one, cp. 269. 1805, oil on canvas, 225 x 148 centimeters, Musée Carnavalet, Paris, France. Cupid and Psyche. Here Psyche, the symbol of the human soul, is surprised by Cupid, who is invisible. Tour 1798, oil on canvas, 186 x 132 centimeters, Louvre, Paris, France. Eugene Delacroix. B. Charenton Saint Maurice, 1798, D. Paris, 1863. A leading figure of the French Romantic movement, Delacroix studied under Gérard, but was greatly influenced by Géricault. He posed for one of the figures in Géricault's Raft of the Medusa, 1818-19, and was astounded by the passion and energy of the finished work. Its impact can be seen in the remarkable series of paintings that Delacroix produced during the 1820s. On the strength of these, critics hailed him as the leader of a new school, contrasting his youthful, romantic approach with the stale classicism of Ingres. Delacroix was wary of these labels, regarding himself as a traditionalist, and it is significant that he won a number of prestigious state commissions to decorate public buildings. A visit to North Africa in 1832 broadened the range of his work, providing him with new kinds of Orientalist subjects. In these, Delacroix was unbridled in his use of color, which was later to exert a powerful influence on the Impressionists. Lifeline. 1798, born near Paris, 1815, studies with Gérard. 1824, the massacre of Chaos, vertical bar causes a stir at Salon. 1830, paints Liberty leading the people. 1832, visits Morocco, Algeria, and Spain. 1833, commissioned to decorate the Salon du Roi in the Palais Bourbon. 1855, work is shown at the World Fair. Made commander of the Legion of Honor. 1861, completes the murals at Saint-Sulpice. 1863, dies at his Paris home. The massacre of Chios in April 1822, Turkish soldiers slaughtered civilians on the island of Chios, believing that they were assisting Greek rebels. Delacroix verified the details of this event by talking to eyewitnesses. 1824, oil on canvas, 417 by 354 cm, Louvre, Paris, France. Closer look. Romantic suffering. Delacroix tried to symbolize the suffering of the islanders by placing a row of despairing figures in the foreground. Critics disliked the modernity of the subject, the staginess of the composition, and the unremitting emphasis on misery. In context. Greek War of Independence. In 1871, the Greeks launched a bid for independence, after centuries of domination by the Ottoman Turks. In the West, their struggle rapidly became a cause célèbre, as many Europeans regarded ancient Greece as the cradle of their civilization, and the war inspired many artists and writers. Lord Byron by Frederick Gore. The English poet Lord Byron was an active supporter of the Greek cause. He financed a military expedition, but died of a fever before the fighting began. The women of Algiers. Western artists often portrayed harems in a gaudy, artificial manner. Delacroix had actually seen one, so his version is simple, understated, and far more realistic. 1834, oil on canvas, 180 by 229 cm, Louvre, Paris, France. Liberty leading the people. In this famous picture, Delacroix celebrated the July Revolution of 1830, when King Charles X was ousted from power. The artist was sympathetic to the rebels' cause, but took no part in the uprising. The new government bought this painting, though it was quietly removed from public view to quell any threat from lingering revolutionary sentiments. 1830, oil on canvas, 260 by 325 cm, Louvre, Paris, France. Closer look. Realistic allegory. The lighting makes Liberty the focus of the composition. A highly unconventional allegorical figure, Liberty's disheveled clothing and gun make her seem strikingly real and modern. Rebellious youth. This figure of a street urchin is said to have inspired the character of Gavroche in Victor Hugo's novel Les Miserables. Parisian landmark the towers of Notre Dame helped to locate the action. The cathedral was the scene of fierce fighting, as the rebels pulled down the king's flag and raised the Republican tricolor in its place. I do not care for reasonable painting at all. My turbulent mind needs agitation, needs to liberate itself. There is some black depth that must be appeased. Eugene Delacroix. Richard Parkes Bonington. B. Arnold, 1802, London, 1828. Although English by birth, Bonington spent most of his adult life in France. He studied there under Gros and became a close friend of Delacroix. Bonington was at his best when working on a small scale. His watercolors and oil sketches are particularly fine, displaying a genuine freshness and spontaneity. He gained recognition in 1824, winning a gold medal at the Paris Salon, but his career was cut tragically short by consumption. Calais Pier. Bonington coastal scenes are masterful studies of light and atmosphere. 1823-24, oil on panel, 29 by 34 cm, Yale Center for British Art, New Haven, U.S. Théodore Chassériau. B. Dominican Republic, 1819, D. Paris, 1856. In his brief career, Théodore Chassériau achieved a convincing blend of romantic and neoclassical elements. Born in the West Indies, the son of the French consul, he was one of Ingres's favorite pupils and shared his enthusiasm for sinuous, well-drawn figures. Increasingly, though, he came under the spell of Delacroix, developing a taste for rich colors and exotic themes. Like that of Delacroix, Chassériau's art was transformed by his African travels, in his case, a trip to Algeria in 1846. The Toilet of Esther. Nominally a biblical subject, this resembles one of Ingres's harem paintings. Esther displays the pale sensuality of a neoclassical nude, but the richly colored background owes more to Delacroix. 1841, oil on canvas, 46 x 36 cm, Louvre, Paris, France.